Katika maisha ya kawaida, tunastahili kufahamu kwamba Mungu ametupa mambo mawili. Aidha tuwe watu wa kimwili ama tumkubali Roho aweze kutuongoza. Na hasa wakati huu ambapo tuko katika janga hili ambalo limetupata la corona, ningewaomba wapendwa kujua kwamba lazima tuongozwe na Roho wa Mungu ndiposa tukawe washindi. Sote twaelewa na kujua kwamba tangu mwanzo wa kuumba dunia na hata pale katika shamba la Edeni, Mungu alitupa mambo mawili, na akatoa amri kwamba katika Mwanzo 2:17 kwamba nawasihi yote iliyo katika bustani hii mtaila, lakini mtakapoguza mti wa ujuzi ambao ni wa kujua mema na mabaya, hakika mtakufa. Kutii na kufuata sheria ni jambo moja, lakini katika sasa tunaona mambo mawili, mambo ya kimwili na mambo ya kiroho. Ili tukaweze kuwa washindi, lazima tumtegemee Roho wa Mungu na tuwe watu wa kiroho. Tukiongozwa na mwili, matokeo yake itakuwa ni kupotea na kufa. Lakini tukiongozwa na Roho wa Mungu, akiwa ndiye anaongoza katika maombi yetu, hakika tunaenda kuwa washindi na hata janga hili tutaweza kulishinda. Tunapata kwamba Yakobo 4:4, ukitaka kuwa upande wa Mungu na kumkaribia zaidi, lazima utumie Roho Mtakatifu. Roho wa Mungu huwa na watu wake, na Roho wa Mungu huwaongoza watu kuwa katika ukweli. Lakini tukipenda mwili zaidi, mwisho tutakuwa wapotovu. Na ombi letu katika nchi yetu ya Kenya sasa ni kwamba tumtegemee huyo Roho Mtakatifu na mambo yetu yawe ni ya kiroho. Unapoongozwa na Roho Mtakatifu, unakuwa na huruma, unakuwa na upendo, unakuwa moyo wa kusamehe, na hiyo ndio tunahitaji ili tukaweze kushinda na kufaulu katika janga hili. Wapendwa watazamaji, najua kwamba Mungu yuko pamoja nasi na anaenda kusimama nasi, tunaenda kwa washindi katika janga hili. Kikubwa tutaishinda kwa maombi. Wacha tukaombe. Mungu Baba, Mwana na Roho Mtakatifu, tunakuja kwako tukijua kwamba hakika tunaenda kushinda kwa maombi. Hatuombi kama kanisa, bali tunaomba kama Wakristo. Kenya nzima na ulimwengu ukasikie maombi yetu. Na ninauliza haya yote kupitia kwa Yesu Kristo ambaye ndiye mwombezi wetu. Amen.
Sir, kumbe unakuanga criminal. Mimi si biangi mama.
Si hivyo, hiyo ni ukweli nusu, uongo nusu. Mkate umenunua, hiyo ingine imepotea.
Juu, imagine sasa tutakosana.
Yaani wewe, muti zako zinakuangaje? Huwezi kaa dakika mbili hata bila kuteta?
No. Sikiza, nilileta Nasir kwako mpe display.
Ni wasefi cheni hii bag.
The last time nilikusikiliza, nilienda nimeanguka kwa gate.
Mimi niko ndani ya hii bag, hadi mimi nimeanza kukushuku.
Ha, please. Utakuwa umeni help. Ukimwongelesha, kuja uniambie vile atarespond.
Hapana, simaanishi hivyo. Namaanisha nichote ka kitu kidogo alafu nitafutie hizo nguo ziliibiwa.
As always, it is a pleasure having you each and every morning. Good morning, Kenya, right here. Thank you very much for keeping it KBC. A very good morning to you. Hope you're safe. Hope you are staying at home, following the government strategy and the stipulations that have been given by the Ministry of Health, washing hands, sanitizing, keeping social distancing. It is a pleasure having you each and every morning right here on Good Morning Kenya. Well, this morning, we have a lot in store for you, including one interview that will be coming up courtesy of KBC English Service. We will be having a link up with Rachel Omamo, that is the CS of Foreign Affairs, discussing what the government strategy is when it comes to combating the COVID-19. Do you think that the stipulations are enough? What is the government strategy so far, looking into the near future? That link-up interview will be coming up in a bit. But not only that, we also have in the headlines coming up, where we'll be taking a look at what is in our different newspapers, the Standard, the Daily Nation, the People's Daily, and the Star. In one of the dailies talks about back to school, where we have the education, in terms of matters education, where the president has announced candidates to be recalled to class to prepare for their national examinations. That is the KCAC and the KCPE, including what's happening in Nairobi County and the Treasury, where we had yesterday members of Parliament who rejected the proposals by the National Treasury to introduce tax on different items. That was rejected by the members of Parliament, which means more cash in your pocket this month. That is coming up in a bit and much more. A very good morning to you. My name is Ram Aguko.
And even as we continue the discussions on matters surrounding coronavirus and how it has affected different sectors, being a Thursday, you know we also get to go easy and light. On the show, we have our trending topic segments where we get to discuss what has been making news here in Kenya as well as beyond our borders. We put our minds together just to discuss what has been happening around, discuss what has been happening here in Kenya as well as beyond in regards to these topics. That is, will be coming in later. That is on our trending topic segment. And of course, you can be part of that discussion by talking to us via our social media platforms, which will be issued later. But also remember, we are continuing to break down the numbers for you on how this disease has affected different parts of the countries here in Africa, as well as across the globe. So basically, we'll just be breaking down those numbers for you. Try to see the number of recoveries, the number of deaths, as well as confirmed cases here in Kenya, as well as beyond our borders. Many thanks for making time to join us on the show this morning. My name is Dorina Range. Good morning.
Well, hello there. My name is Fiona Shuru, and it is a very cheerful morning at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. I'll be bringing you the Good Morning Kenya news briefs. This morning, we'll be having a look at yesterday's address by President Uhuru Kenyatta. He addressed the nation at Radio Taifa, highlighting how the Ministry of Health is helping combat COVID-19, as well as giving us a few more guidelines on how to live during this tragic period of COVID-19. The president also talked about how the Big Four agenda is being affected by COVID-19 measures. So we'll be having a detailed look about that on the business news. There's also new restrictions as for the government for Mandera County. I'll be giving you a brief on that, as well as having a look at what exactly happened at Professor Ken Walibora's burial. So we'll be having a look at that, especially what is happening also in the world of business and sports. But before we have a look at the news, let's take a short, brief break, but we'll be right back. The government has sanctioned the cessation of movement in and out of Mandera County amid the widespread community coronavirus infections in the county. The stringent course of action by the state comes after the tally of positive cases reached 8, making it one of COVID-19 hotspots, alongside Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale. The number of infections in the country now stands at 303 after confirmation of 7 more coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours. Nancy Okwari reports.
Starting Wednesday, the 22nd of April at 7 p.m., there will be no movement in and out of the northeastern county of Mandera for an initial containment period of 21 days following increased cases of coronavirus community infections.
It's a corner county with neighbors on two sides and is also affected by travel from other parts of the country. Therefore, as part of the containment measures, the government has today directed restriction of movement into and out of Mandera County.
It is extremely critical for the security officers who are manning to understand with absolute clarity that there are people on the road right now who this order is likely to catch them unaware, and as such we want to urge humane processing of the same.
The county now becoming the 5th in the country to be put under restrictive movement in efforts aimed at stemming the spread of COVID-19. What's more, the National Command Center on the Enforcement of Public Health Measures rolled out in the counties of Kwale, Kilifi and Mombasa has been urged to review the performance of measures already in place with a view to introduce more stringent measures. The containment efforts by the government come in even as the number of confirmed cases in Kenya surpassed the 300 mark over a period of 41 days.
Having tested 707 samples, we have 7 persons who have tested positive to the disease, those being Kenyans as a whole.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe issuing a stern warning to individuals breaking out of quarantine facilities who now have an option to surrender or risk being hunted down by authorities.
You cannot have 47 million policemen following 47 million Kenyans. People need to police themselves in a matter such as this one. Because if they do not surrender themselves back, then they render themselves to all kinds of things, including being mobbed by people, and taken there by force.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has confirmed that it is currently conducting targeted testing based on community, hospital and population-based surveillance with a plan to conduct 250,000 tests by June 2020. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Still on matters COVID-19. There's an increasing concern over individuals who are breaking out of quarantine facilities as efforts to curb the spread of coronavirus intensifies. Majority are concerned that those who have escaped pose a greater danger to society by roaming freely amid confusion over their health status. The Council of Governors is leading the calls to have stringent security measures put in place to minimize cases of individuals getting away from quarantine facilities. Ritis Katonye reports.
4 people suspected to have come into contact with patients who turned positive for COVID-19 in Ruaka area of Kiamba in Kiambu County were transferred to an isolation center in Nairobi. According to authorities, all the tenants of the building where the suspects resided will remain indoors and under police surveillance until direction clarity over their health status is ascertained. The suspected cases were taken for isolation. At a time, there is growing concern over individuals who are escaping quarantine facilities.
Wawili ni watu wa Bangladesh na wawili ni Wakenya wenzetu. Wawili wale ni wale tunaita close contacts na wale ambao walikuwa wamedhibitishwa kwamba wako positive. Hao wawili nao wa Kenya ni wale ambao walikuwa wakifanya kazi hapa katika jengo hili ya kuosha.
The Council of Governors is raising concerns over the trend where persons are arrested for violating the curfew, noting apart from health risks, this group is putting a strain on the county budgets. For this reason, COG wants the Ministry of Interior to act tough to stop cases of individuals escaping from quarantine facilities.
We therefore urge the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Inspector General, to put in place stringent security measures to minimize cases of individuals escaping from quarantine facilities. This will ensure that those in quarantine complete their 14 days period recommended by the Ministry of Health.
In the same breath, the Evangelical Association of Kenya warned that the individuals breaking out will jeopardize government's effort to stem the spread of coronavirus. The association has also affirmed its commitment to regulations put in place by the government in dealing with the current pandemic.
So we want to urge our fellow Kenyans, fellow citizens, let's abide by the guidelines that the government has given. If you are taken into quarantine, it may not be comfortable, it may not be convenient, but it is for the sake of the rest of Kenyans and even for yourself. So our appeal is that you stay there for the time that you have been put there so that we can manage this situation.
The outcry comes even as Mandera County government, in a partnership bringing together vocational institutions, promised to deliver over 400,000 affordable face masks to be produced by a local manufacturer. While inspecting a production unit established at the Melangin Vocational Training Center, Governor Francis Kimemia assured residents that the 3-ply masks will be available at an initial affordable cost of 30 shillings per piece and free to the most vulnerable.
And ultimately, we want to see that each person has about 1 or 2 masks. That's why we are selling them at a very low price, 30 shillings per mask. Ultimately, I know they will drop to 20 shillings. Those who cannot afford, as I have said, will support them with the free masks and also with the free food.
Beatrice Gatonyangetich, Channel 1 News.
President Uhuru Kenyatta says his administration has put in place elaborate mechanisms aimed at protecting Kenyans from the adverse effects of the deadly COVID-19 disease. While addressing the nation from State House, Nairobi, through Radio Taifa, the president, however, called on Kenyans to observe guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health, warning those bent on flouting them of dire consequences.
With the country reporting more and more positive COVID-19 cases, Kenyans remained concerned with the ripple effects of the outbreak. Amid a grim economic outlook, President Uhuru Kenyatta taking a chance on live interview with several local FM stations to assure Kenyans that his administration has put in measures to caution the citizenry against the adverse effects of COVID-19.
Jukumu letu la kwanza ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeokoa maisha. Hiyo ndio jukumu letu la kwanza.
The president would, however, decry lack of seriousness by Kenyans in observing laid down guidelines in the fight against COVID-19, saying it remains the biggest challenge in the ongoing efforts.
Haya ndio itaamua kama sisi kama taifa tutashinda hii vita kati ya corona.
And in the wake of the viral videos of persons who escaped from KMTC quarantine center, the president says the culprit will be forced to complete the mandatory isolation period.
For those ones, hata wale tuliona wakitoroka, tutawapata na watarudi. Na wataendelea mpaka watamaliza kipindi chao cha quarantine. So mtu asione ametoroka, ameshinda.
The head of state would also address public outcry by Kenyans in India and China who have been appealing to the government to be evacuated back home, saying Kenya is in talks with respective countries to ensure those who wish to return home are facilitated.
Uko na uwezo, tunapanga kwingine. Kulikuwa wale ambao walikuwa caught up upande ya Dubai. Yeah? Na tukasema, wacha tuone hawa wako na ndege labda vile tuwaweza tupange, watu walipe ile kidogo wako naye warudi. Na tutaendelea kufanya hivyo kwa wote wale ambao wako caught up katika nchi mbalimbali.
And with the 21 days of partial lockdown in 3 counties coming to an end on Friday, the head of state said the National Emergency Committee on Coronavirus was evaluating a host of options to curb the spread of the virus.
Mikakati ambayo tutachukua italingana na yale ambao wataalamu watatuambia tunataka tufanye ndio tuokoe maisha.
At the same time, the president urged Kenyans to be on the lookout and report cases of misuse of funds meant for the less fortunate and the elderly.
Tutaendelea kuhakikisha pesa tumeitoa, lakini tuambie wananchi, mkiona labda kuna pahali ambapo mnaona makosa, pasheni habari kwa polisi, pasheni habari kwa viongozi wa serikali, pasheni habari.
With reported cases of evictions due to non-payment of rent, the head of state said the government has no powers to give directives on personal property, but pleaded with landlords to be considerate during this trying moment.
Manyumba mwenye kukodesha, tafadhalini wenzangu, Mwenyezi Mungu ametufundisha sisi wote tuwe watu wa huruma kwa wenzetu, na hakuna wakati kama huu wa kuonesha hiyo huruma na hiyo understanding kwa wenzako.
For candidates waiting to sit for their national examination later in the year, and amid concerns of coverage of the syllabus ahead of the national exams, the president said the current situation is not anticipated to disrupt the examination calendar. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
It was a standing ovation for the country's healthcare workers and those in the front line in the fight against COVID-19, with Kenyans pausing their daily duties at noon to applaud their efforts. Dubbed Sasita, the event was marked across the country and will be observed every Wednesday at noon in honor of all essential service providers as the country battles COVID-19.
Applause will be the new norm every Wednesday at noon as Kenyans across the country temporarily halt the activities to clap for essential service providers who are on the front line in battling COVID-19. Health workers at Kenyatta National Hospital took part in the campaign in solidarity with their colleagues who have put their lives in the line to offer crucial services during coronavirus outbreak.
We also want to send a strong message to the public that this is not a war of the cabinet secretary. This is not a war of the president. This is not a war of the health workers. This is your war also. So adhere to the measures that have been given by the government. That is the only way we can flatten that graph. So
are going to all stand, both members who are within the chamber.
No more business at the National Assembly was halted at midday as all within the premises stood up and clapped for a minute to appreciate the efforts of health workers.
For how many minutes?
The script was replicated in Mombasa as residents joined in clapping to appreciate medics at the forefront in the race against COVID-19.
United, we shall beat this virus.
And members of staff at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation also took part in the exercise dubbed Sasita, initiated by Kenya Editors Guild, Kenya Medical Association and National Association of Nurses. The event will be observed every Wednesday at noon in honor of the essential service providers.
We just came together to see how we can appreciate our people in whatever small way we can. So this is just a gesture that we'll be doing every Wednesday at midday.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Yes, every day at Wednesday we applaud the people on the front line fighting COVID-19 on behalf of all of us. Moving on, victims of Monday's landslide that claimed 12 people will receive compensation from the government, according to Kericho Governor Paul Chepkwony, who plans that are also underway to relocate families living in mudslide and flood-prone areas in a bid to avert further disasters. The revelation coming at a time the national government flagged off relief food to the affected.
The rainy season is here yet again, and the familiar tale of destruction and death has reared its ugly head. But this time it appears both the national and county governments have moved hastily in responding to the tragedy and the victims.
We already have harmonized our disaster risk management legislation and policy framework. These will see the counties and the national government working together seamlessly because of the institutional framework that we have put in place. We'll also have enough funding directed towards these emergencies.
The government on Wednesday flagging off relief food to affected areas. Leading the initiative, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, however, urged the county government to set aside resources to respond to disasters.
We have had counties saying, no, the problem of drought is only in northern Kenya. But if you don't have drought, tomorrow you'll have floods. If you don't have floods, tomorrow you'll have locusts. Now, we must all be prepared in terms of resources, in terms of the necessary infrastructure to be able to build resilience to deal with these disasters now and in the future.
Wamalo spoke as the county government of Kericho disclosed plans to compensate victims of Monday's landslides in Kipkelion West Sub-County, which has resulted to 12 deaths so far. Speaking during a donation of foodstuff and other non-food items to victims at Nyansakye in Kamasian Ward, where 2 lives were lost to landslides, Governor Paul Chepkwony said the county government will construct new houses for the victims and compensate loss of crops and animals buried during the landslide.
We will make arrangements to relocate the families who are in prone areas because it is not sustainable that year in, year out, they're experiencing landslides, and we have to keep doing something about it all the time. And when we do that, we'll encourage people to grow trees.
In Trans Nzoia County, more than 2,000 residents of Namanjalala location in Kwanza constituency are up in arms over a Chinese construction company which they blame for worsening flooding in the area. The construction company, which is laying bitumen in Maili Kumi na Moja Road, is on the receiving end for allegedly demolishing a flooding barrier along Sabwani River Bridge, resulting to displacements.
Wajenzi wamepomoa ukuta ambao ilikuwa inasuiliwa na maji kuingia kwa mapoma ya watu. Hata sasa watu wanalala barabarani. Vyakula vyote vimefunikwa na maji. Sasa hatuna vile tunaweza kusaidia watoto, kulala ni shida. Mama pia hata penye wanapata chakula ni shida.
And finally, the largest retail market in Gilgil town is staring at possible closure after it was flooded, paralyzing operations. Traders operating in the market expressed fears of a disease outbreak due to the ongoing rains and collapsed drainage system in the town. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Glowing tributes characterized the burial of renowned Kiswahili author Professor Ken Walibora, who was also laid to rest yesterday at his Makutano home in Cherangany constituency, Trans Nzoia County. The late scholar was eulogized as a great scholar with a great mind, whose scholarly work will forever inspire future generations.
On Wednesday, friends and family of the late renowned Kiswahili author Professor Ken Walibora gathered at Makutano Cherangany constituency in Trans Nzoia County to bid him farewell. His body was airlifted from Nairobi upon arrival. The Jehovah's Witness Church commenced the burial rites whose attendance had been limited owing to social distancing guidelines. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of mourners who attended the burial was limited to 15 as per the Ministry of Health guidelines, which are aimed at curbing the spread of coronavirus. Among those who attended the 47-minute funeral service were majorly his extended family members, neighbors and scholars. His widow and 2 children were, however, absent as they could not leave the US due to travel bans over COVID-19 pandemic. Glowing tributes being paid to a man who worked at KBC as a translator and news anchor before moving to Nation Media Group, and who is also credited with authoring popular books, among them Siku Njema, Kufa Kuzikana na Nasikia Sauti ya Mama.
Alikuwa mtu mkarimu, mtu aliyehudumia watu aina zote, wakubwa kwa wadogo. Ikuwa mtu wenye unyenyekevu. Hungelijua ni mtu wa hadhi kubwa kama hiyo alipokuwa akichangamana na watoto, akicheza ule mpira wetu wa kienyeji unaitwa lifundo.
The late Walibora was eulogized by his counterparts as a great scholar with a great mind, whose scholarly work will forever remain ideal for generations.
Ken Walibora ametoa michango mikubwa mno, hasa katika taaluma ya Kiswahili na fasihi yake.
Umempoteza msomi wa hadhi yake, na tuseme kwamba yapo mengi sana alitarajia kuyafanya, na katika umri wake 50 na nafikiri bado alikuwa mbichi katika uwanja huu. Kwa hivyo ni hasara kubwa sana kwa jumuiya ya wasomi na hasa Kiswahili.
His family called on authorities to speed up investigations to establish cause of death following an autopsy that revealed he suffered stab wounds.
Lile litakalokuja tutashukuru kujua kile kilichompata ndugu yetu.
As the effects of the COVID-19 global pandemic continues to bite, many Kenyans are bearing the brunt after losing their jobs and many businesses closing down. Safin Achieng visited a family in Diana Ombete, a single mother living in the city's Kibera slums, who is now left struggling to make ends meet in an environment where young girls are easily lured into immoral acts as a survival tactic.
The impact of the COVID-19 outbreak continues to bite, with vulnerable populations now faced with the harsh reality of struggling to make ends meet, all courtesy of the economic downturn caused by the global pandemic. Such is the predicament of Diana Ombete Musembi, a resident of Kibra slums in Nairobi. She hails from a family of 5, all raised by their single mother in this 2-roomed house. At 21 years of age, Diana is already a mother, forced to raise her baby alone after the father of her 5-month-old son jilted her.
Babake ashughuliki, unajua pia ukalazimisha mtu. Ya ukimuuliza kitu fulani anakataa ama anakuambia atakutumia kisha atumi. Maisha ya kumlea kukaa kama mzazi mmoja ni magumu sana.
Hers is a story of broken dreams, a narrative shared by many girls across Kibra who come from poverty-stricken families.
So most of these girls end up getting into what we call transactional sex relationships, and the whole idea is to get some extra income to be able to meet their needs. And of course, what normally happens, they end up becoming pregnant. Once they're pregnant, they drop out of school.
Faced with the burden of parenthood, many girls like Diana have been forced to take odd jobs to earn a living. But the outbreak of coronavirus, however, has spelled doom for these girls, with many losing their jobs. Diana was a sales lady at one of the malls in Nairobi's central business district, but she's now jobless after her employer closed shop. As she tries to cope with the new normal, she wonders how she will meet her obligations in the coming days.
Imeni affect sana kwa mwanzo siwezi nikaprovidea mtoto wangu cause namlea kama single parent. Siwezi nikapata pesa kumnunulia diaper, kumnunulia nguo, alafu pia kumnunulia chakula. Mimi mwenyewe pia kujitegemea. So it's that hard.
Life is hard, she tells me. At times even eating becomes a luxury.
It's that hard. Because tuseme unaweza pata 1 meal at a day, hiyo kwa siku moja unapata mlo mmoja malisha moja. Si kama hapo nyuma, cause kama mamangu haendi kazi, wote tuko tu nyumbani.
Nancy Okoth from Plan International says that the situation could worsen for these girls, as some are now being lured into immoral acts as a survival tactic.
These are some of the things that the girls have experienced, and this one has ensured that they are not able to have any income. And in turn, most of the girls have started engaging in some commercial sex work so that they're able to maintain or get their daily bread. And then we are foreseeing this to be able to bring maybe early pregnancies and even early marriages.
The organization is partnering with other key players to assist girls from vulnerable families. They are also calling on the government to focus on cushioning such vulnerable populations from the adverse effects of COVID-19.
Really, the measures the government has put in place, they could be working elsewhere, but in the context of Kibera, a lot of support is needed, because if we don't give them food, these people don't see the need to stay back at home.
Until that happens, single mothers like Diana can only hope for better days ahead, with her son remaining her only source of strength as she soldiers on.
Nikiona ni give up, lenye naona mtoto ananitegemea, mamangu ndo anani-encourage na ananiambia all will be well. So mimi nasema tu ni alafu pia mimi mwenyewe naji-encourage, naji-motivate, nasema it will be well.
We are in Kisumu Ndogo area in Kibra, one of the largest slums in Africa. For majority of residents in this area, it is a challenge to get their daily must-haves such as food, a situation that has been worsened by the outbreak of coronavirus. They are hoping that this outbreak will come to pass and their lives return to normalcy. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Achieng Ouma.
The United Nations is warning that global hunger could double as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, putting 265 million people at risk. The warning is coming as the number of those infected by COVID-19 across the globe rose to over 2.5 million people, with at least 705,000 people having recovered from the illness, according to Johns Hopkins University. The United States accounts for about a quarter of all deaths, with over 45,000 deaths recorded so far. Emily K. Bade with the details.
Coronavirus is spreading rapidly in many countries, and the death toll is still climbing. In the United States, President Donald Trump has said he will sign an executive order to temporarily suspend all immigration to the U.S. due to the disease outbreak. Trump's declaration coming as the U.S. death toll went beyond 42,000, with over 792,000 confirmed cases. And as many countries seek an end or partial end to their lockdowns, the World Health Organization has once again given a warning that this should be a gradual process, arguing that premature relaxation may lead to a surge of new COVID-19 infections. In Europe, Italy will this week announce plans for the gradual reopening from a lockdown imposed to fight the coronavirus emergency that will be applied starting May 4th. France has become the latest country to record more than 20,000 deaths related to coronavirus. Germany has, however, reopened small shops, car dealerships and bicycle stores in a tentative easing of the coronavirus lockdown imposed nearly a month ago. The United Kingdom Parliament also resumed on Tuesday, with lawmakers being asked to approve a new hybrid system which will limit the number of people allowed in the House of Commons at any one time. In Asia, the semi-autonomous Chinese city of Hong Kong reported no new cases yesterday, raising hopes that the second wave seen in March could be over. In Africa, Ghanaians welcomed the end of the lockdown with mixed emotions. While some Ghanaians were relieved to get back to work, others were left fretting after the country became the first in Africa to lift a coronavirus lockdown. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
As the world continues to navigate through the rapidly evolving coronavirus pandemic, children remain on edge as health systems buckle, borders close, and schools and businesses also close. Amid the uncertainty, how do you protect the welfare of children who are least able to cope with the pandemic that could have potential catastrophic consequences for vulnerable populations?
We are encouraging children to stay at home, not to go around visiting their friends, not to have their friends coming into their houses. And we've heard a lot about hand washing. This is the best time when you're with your children at home to teach them the ways to keep washing hands. And we know also how to protect these children when they're at home. As a mother, you know you'll have to go to the market to get some vegetables, to get some food to eat. And these are sites of transmission of the virus. So we are asking the mothers also, protect your children when you come home. There are some surfaces, the way the virus is transmitted, either through aerosols. So even as you go out to the market to get food, you need to put on your mask. And if everyone else around is also having a mask, there is less aerosols in the air that can transmit this virus. Another thing, we also know the virus is transmitted through fomites. Fomites are just anything that can hold a virus, like a pen, a piece of paper, cardboard. Even the shopping bag that you carry is a fomite, where it's an avenue of transmission of the virus. So we are asking you, as you go and do your shopping, you make sure that you practice hand washing. When you come home with your shopping, just take a piece of cloth with some soap and water, clean whatever you have bought before you put it into your house. Clean also your shopping bag. When you come from outside, you take off the clothes that you had gone to shop with, soak them and wash them with soap and water. Go and have a shower. If you have hair, long hair, you need to wash your hair as well, because hair can also carry the virus.
As the world marks 50th anniversary of Earth Day, most people across the globe remain concerned over the impact of climate change. A research conducted by 14 countries by IPSOS Group indicates that 71% of those polled globally agree that climate change is a serious crisis, just as COVID-19 outbreak. The revelations coming as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres challenged world leaders to put in place climate actions on mitigation, adoption and finance measures in efforts aimed at cushioning the globe amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
As countries around the globe strive to combat COVID-19 disease, a poll conducted by Ipsos Research Group has moved to amplify the challenge posed by climate change. The poll conducted between April 16 to 19 this year in 14 countries indicate that 71% of those polled agree that in the long term, climate change is as serious a crisis as COVID-19. The survey shows widespread support for government actions to prioritize climate change, with 68% globally saying their governments will be failing them if they don't act now to combat climate change. 65% of those polled support a green economic recovery for the COVID-19 crisis. Another Ipsos survey conducted online among over 20,000 adults across 29 countries between February 21st and March 6, 2020 finds that while climate change remains the most important environmental issue for citizens globally, citizens are more likely to say they plan to make changes to their own environmental behaviors than they were 6 years ago. The findings indicate that the climate change remains the most important environmental issue globally, with 37% citing it as one of the top environmental issues, followed by air pollution at 33%, waste management at 32%, deforestation at 26% and water pollution at 25%. The revelations coming as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calling on world nations to put in place ambitious climate actions on mitigation, adaptation and finance measures in efforts committed to building back from the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Guterres, there is need to use the recovery from the effects of COVID-19 to secure a more sustainable and resilient future so as to build a healthy and resilient future for the people and the planet. This year, the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day has encountered a new normal, with a global pandemic changing the way we live across the world. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
The National Assembly has adopted the Tax Laws Amendment Bill that will offer employees earning less than 24,000 shillings 100% tax relief, while those earning above the amount will pay a maximum of 25%, down from the current 30%. Adopting the President's proposed economic stimulus occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic, legislators, however, called for enhanced measures to cushion vulnerable Kenyans who are not formally employed. The new tax measures are also aimed at cushioning the economy, as companies will enjoy a reduction of corporate tax from the current 30 to 25%.
Kenyans earning less than 24,000 shillings will not be paying taxes, while those earning more than this will pay a maximum of 25%, down from the current 30%.
Proceed, Chairperson.
This is after National Assembly adopted the Tax Laws Amendment Bill that also gives companies a reduction of corporate tax from 30% to 25%. Debating the President's economic stimulus package that aims at cushioning Kenyans from job losses and at the same time protect the economy, MPs also expressed the need to provide basic commodities for vulnerable populations.
Whereas presently we have the minimum at 10%, that is going to move to 50%, and then the maximum is going to be reduced from 30% to 25%. Mr. Speaker, this largely is going to help those who are to put money into the pockets of Kenyans, but only those who are in the formal employment. Mr. Speaker, that is a caveat. And then we are aware that very few Kenyans are in formal employment, And therefore, those who are going to benefit are largely not so much, Mr. Speaker, but it is going to improve their purchasing power.
We must agree that bread must be zero rated. You cannot put bread and chocolate on the same side, because how many Kenyans actually consume chocolate?
My understanding of how to deal with a situation where we are is that we would seek to get whatever we can get from people who are in employment and earning to help those who are either out of employment or vulnerable. They have nothing at all.
The micro, small and medium enterprises will enjoy a reduction of controversial turnover tax, also known as patriotism tax, from the current 3% to 1%, meaning that small businesses will now pay 1 shilling for every 100 shillings they make in gross sales.
So let us do the balance between the two. Save the economy, save the employer, and save the ordinary employee. But just coming up and then going through with whatever the executive wants, and then we just come and then just pass through, or rubber stamp for that matter. Let's remind ourselves that we are members of parliament representing the ordinary Kenyans.
We must use our emergency fund in the CDF. Our women reps should use the emergency fund. We must look for those very vulnerable members of our society and give them whatever.
The Kenya Revenue Authority had earlier stated that the proposals will not take effect, advising employers to continue making deductions based on previous arrangements. The taxman had, however, said it would issue backdated refunds once the bill was assented into law by the president. Meanwhile, the controversial transfer of functions from the Nairobi County government to the national government found its way in the House. The matter would be at the heart of the debate as MPs considered adoption of the Senate's amendment to the Division of Revenue Bill that will ensure resources allocated to Nairobi City County follow functions that were surrendered by Governor Mike Sonko to Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Adopting Senate's agenda, the MPs, however, called for transparency in operations of Nairobi's Metropolitan Services. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko had threatened to institute termination of deed of transfer of functions that saw forking functions surrendered to the newly established Nairobi Metropolitan Services, citing frustrations in the implementation of the deal. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
The government has ordered those holding illegal guns in Transmara sub-county to hand them over to authorities within 2 days or face undisclosed action. The region has witnessed bloody confrontations pitting two rival clans fighting over a common boundary.
In the wake of increased hostilities between members of the Oasin Gishu and Syria clans, security operatives and political leaders drawn from Narok County will on Wednesday hold a meeting in the area. The meeting, which brought together 10 elders from each rival clans as well as regional leaders and security agents, will make radical proposals. Narok County Commissioner Samuel Kimiti issuing a 48-hour ultimatum to residents of Nkarao in Transmara to return all illegal firearms.
Kwa sababu kuna wengine walikuwa wameenda kutafuta budoki na wako nafu. Kufikia Friday walete hizo budoki zote kwa serikali. Sasa wachaleta budoki, hiyo ndio itakuwa inchara ya kuonyesha ya kwamba wamekubali kuweka amani, na wakuweka amani wakati hiyo serikali itafikiria kuondoa hii curfew, hasa hii ya saa 10. Hiyo itategemea kuweka amani na kurudisha budoki.
Narok Governor Samuel Tunai urging the two rival clans to embrace peace and choose to work in harmony, sentiments echoed by the area legislator Gideon Conchella.
Tunataka wao wenyewe wakiwa jamii hizo mbili wakubali amani itoke kwao wenyewe, ndio serikali iwe tu inakuja kusahihisha, lakini wao wenyewe wawe wamekubali ya kwamba hiyo vita haitarudi tena.
Pale ambao watu walikuwa wanazozana, saa hii hakuna mzozo kama hiyo tena itatokea, na serikali itaamua na itatatua yale ambayo yamebaki ama yale ambayo ilikuwa inaanzisha hii shida ambayo jamii hapa walikuwa nayo.
Public Service Commission Chairperson Stephen Kirogo says Kenyans can now expect a new Auditor General by mid-May. Kirogo says the development will help address the backlog being witnessed by Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee. Details of this and other highlights in the County News Roundup.
Speaking at the Public Service Commission headquarters during the official launch of the selection panel for the selection of nominees for the appointment of the Auditor General, Kirogo said 2 previous attempts to fill the vacant position have failed to produce a candidate. Kirogo says a total of 64 applicants have expressed interest in the vacant position, adding that the appointment of a substantive Auditor General will go a long way in taking care of the backlog in government financial reports, which affect even the business community. And in Kajiado, Governor Joseph Ole Lenku says about 30% of Kajiado County residents are on the brink of starvation and require immediate intervention. Lenku says the obtaining situation is now complicating ongoing efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 in an area where the threat of the disease remains high due to its proximity to the capital and the Namanga border point.
I want to confirm that already 30% of the county are going hungry, over 150,000 people. People who are dependent on daily casual employment, and this affects mostly the youth and the very old. So the relief would need to come now and now because really people are hungry, people are suffering.
Meanwhile, an assistant chief from Kajiado Central is on the spot after he allegedly injured a middle-aged man in what is prescribed as a crime of passion. 22-year-old Moses Mwanja, who is nursing a broken arm and severe injuries in his private parts, says he was picked on an allegation of marrying a schoolgirl in what he says was a wider scheme to have the girl married off to another suitor.
Kunipeleka katikati ya msitu na kwenda kununua. Kama ningekuwa na makosa, kwa nini asingenipeleka kwa vyombo vya sheria? Nimekaa na huyu muda wote na wazazi wake walikuwa najua na sio mtoto wa shule.
Elsewhere, residents of Mandera County are said to benefit from a 2 multi-million shilling water project courtesy of the national government in collaboration with the county government. Once complete, Rutara Mega Dam in Mirangine Sub-County and Karagoine Water Project in Daragwa Sub-County will supply over 20,000 families with clean water. Governor Francis Kimemia says the project will transform the fortune of farmers in the region.
I want to appreciate the national government led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. He promised us when he came here that the contractor would be on site. The contractor is already on site. So we are also going to Leshau Karagoine. The contractor is already on site. He's already completed the project and electrification is ongoing. The county has allocated money for electrification of water to the people. So we are working in
Finally, members of the Nakuru County Assembly have now ruled out foul play in the death of outspoken Naivasha MCA Karanja Mburu, who died in a road accident. This follows a post-mortem report which indicated the Lakeview MCA died from a massive internal bleeding following the Sunday morning accident along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Implementation of projects under Big Four agenda expected to slow as the government redirects resources towards combating coronavirus outbreak. In an exclusive interview with Radio Taifa, President Uhuru Kenyatta said while delivering the projects is still on course, the current crisis requires immediate attention on health and food security.
President Uhuru Kenyatta had outlined the food security, affordable housing, healthcare and manufacturing as part of the Big Four agenda to be achieved by 2022. However, the outbreak of the novel coronavirus has forced the government to shift focus to health and food security.
Sababu mimi naamini mambo haya ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba Wakenya wana uwezo wa kujisimamia mambo ya afya, mambo ya chakula, right?
In an exclusive interview with KBC radio stations, President Uhuru Kenyatta revealed that some projects would be shelved to allow focus on the healthcare system and supporting the food value chain.
Na ile Big Four agenda yetu, hiyo bado itaendelea kuwa msimamo wangu na mwelekezo wangu kama rais wa hii jamhuri kwa muda ambapo niko nao. Na nitaendelea Hii ni issue ambaye hakuna mmoja wetu angetarajia. So lazima tupambane naye, lakini bado tunaelekea na bado tutaendelea na ile agenda yetu ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba zile agenda zetu 4 kubwa za taifa, Mwenyezi Mungu akitujalia na tufanye kazi ile ambayo tunafanya, tutaweza bado kuzitimiza.
This move is in line with the latest supplementary budget, where at least 4.7 billion shillings set aside for housing fund has been dropped. This is expected to slow construction of the planned 500,000 units. Further, national rollout of the universal health coverage has been affected by cuts amounting to 9.4 billion shillings, with 500 million shillings allocated to pilot counties in Kisumu, Isiolo, Machakos and Nyeri counties being slashed. According to Treasury, the monies will be used to hire more frontline workers and purchase of equipment for use in COVID-19 emergency response, with emphasis on ventilators and personal protective equipment for health workers.
Kuna kaunti zetu zingine ambazo ziko na nafasi ama mahospitali na equipment za mahospitali kushinda hata nchi zingine. Kaunti moja, si mimi sisemi nchi ya Kenya, kaunti moja. Ya? Na hii ndio ukweli. Hatujafika pahali ambapo tunataka, lakini kwa ukweli we have made major strides.
President Uhuru Kenyatta lauded individual counties that had made effort to stem the spread of COVID-19 and urged other county governments to scale up efforts, especially in the health docket. Going forward, among other shelved projects, is the National Housing Development Fund and the Nairobi Commuter Railway project that have been stopped indefinitely. Regina Manyara-Gitao reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Yes, we have come to the end of Good Morning Kenya news briefs, but Doreen, tell us what you have for us.
We continue with the updates on coronavirus, and just like I'd mentioned earlier, we will continue to see how this disease is affecting different parts of the countries in the African continent as well as the entire globe. Remember yesterday when we were looking at these numbers, in Africa, Egypt was leading, being followed closely by South Africa. But coming to the globe, this is in the European continent, the United States of America seems to be leading with the numbers of confirmed cases. Remember, countries such as Italy and Spain were the ones that were really hit hard by this pandemic, with the number of confirmed cases rising day in, day out. But as of today, USA stands at 849,092 of confirmed cases. But remember, even as you look at the number of confirmed cases, it does not always translate to the number of confirmed cases in a specific country, meaning that that translates to the number of high death cases. Because also, as we're looking yesterday, yes, the countries that we saw were leading in terms of confirmed cases were not leading in terms of total death cases. But even as we look at USA in terms of confirmed cases, in terms of the death cases, still looks like in the 5 African and in the 5 European countries, it is leading in the number of death cases with a total of 47,681. But when it comes to the confirmed cases, it is being closely followed by Spain, standing at 208,389, and also followed by Italy at 187,327. But look at the difference. In terms of the death cases, we were looking at US, which has high number of death cases, also just translating to the number of confirmed cases, but then it is followed by Italy in the number of death cases. So just like the way I'm telling you, in as much as, yes, the number of confirmed cases in a country may be high, it does not ultimately translate to the number of death cases. But also, in as much as, yes, cases are being recorded day in, day out in different countries, the number of recoveries are also being recorded. And in US, the number of total recoveries stands at 84,050. So really just showing you that the number of confirmed cases, the number of death cases are not as much as the number of total recoveries. So at least this is a ray of hope that even as countries continue to record about these cases in terms of confirmed cases and even death cases, at least there is a number of recovery cases. So at least just showing that, yes, there's a ray of hope in fighting this pandemic. But remember, we'll continue to break down the figures for you, trying to see how countries are recording these cases, trying to see how different governments are trying to combat the spread or contain the spread of this disease. But now we want to move to our In the Headlines segment. Remember, we sample out for you some of the stories that have been highlighted in the Daily Nation, the Standard, the Star, as well as the People's Daily. And as it is tradition, we begin with the People's Daily. Now, this is the front page of the People's Daily. The caption here reads that Ruto loses rice sewage land. This story has been spelled out in page 2. We'll be unpacking more of that as you continue seeing what more has been written in the paper. There's also another caption here that COVID-19 state now seals Mandera, where the health CS Kagwe says decision follows similar move in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kilifi, and Kwale counties to arrest the escalating infections at community level. So remember the 4 major counties that had been, where movement had been restricted because of the spread of this disease. Also, Mandera becomes again another county in which movement has been restricted, and again that story has been fleshed out from page 4 all through page 15. Also in the front page, the number of the cases as at now in the country have been spelled out, where we stand at 303 confirmed cases here in the country, with 74 recovered and 14 deaths. As of yesterday, 7 more cases were confirmed, bringing the total to now 303, which is what we are seeing. And out of that, 15,124 samples have been tested so far. Also, there's another caption where exams to go on as planned. That is what the president has assured learners, and this is what he mentioned yesterday, even as he was talking to Kenyans on some of the ways to contain the spread of this disease. So that at least it makes learners to see that exams will still continue even in as much as we continue dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. Now, to one of the stories that had been highlighted in the front page of this paper, and this is in regards to the Deputy President, where the state repossesses 1,600 acres of land in Rai linked to the DP. And so the government yesterday moved to repossess that 1,600 acre of land in Rai. In Rai area, and so the prime land on Kangundo Road in Nairobi is one of the 2 parcels that has been taken back by the state for the expansion of Nairobi's main sewerage plant. So the reason why this land has been repossessed back by the state is just to ensure that the Nairobi's main sewerage plant can be expanded. And there's a bite here that says that over the years, some groups of people have continued to illegally encroach into the above land. And of course, there's a picture of that land that is to be repossessed by the state for the expansion of that sewerage plant in Rai area. Now, this is a story that was also in the news, GMK news brief this morning, and this is in regards to the death of the Professor Ken Walibora. And so calls for speedy probe into Walibora's death. There was a somber mood engulfed in Cherangani, Trans Nzoia County, when the casket carrying the remains of the renowned writer and journalist Professor Ken Walibora arrived at his home for burial at 2:30 p.m. yesterday. Remember that his wife as well as 2 children could not attend the burial because they are in the U.S. and because of this lockdown, then they could not come into the country. But the professor's elder brother, Patrick Lumumba, said that Walibora's demise is not only a big blow to the family, but also the entire nation. He continued to say that Walibora was humble, caring, and loving man with deep insight on issues, with discerning power of empathizing with the less fortunate. And so the family now calls for speedy probe into Walibora's death to actually ascertain the cause of the death of the professor. Now, coming back to matters coronavirus, and so Mandera sealed off for 3 weeks of a rising infections. Now, the government yesterday sealed off Mandera County for the next 21 days after it emerged the region could turn into an epicenter of this disease. Remember, Nairobi was the one which was regarded as an epicenter of this disease, which was also being closely followed by Mombasa in terms of the recording of these confirmed cases. And Mombasa, again, just continues to record high and high high cases, and so this is why the government deems it fit to seal off Mandera, because they think it could now turn into an epicenter of this disease. This was mentioned yesterday by the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, as he banned movement into and out of the county, both by air and road, as part of the measures to avert the transfer of infections from the area after 8 cases were reported. So this is one of the directives that came from the Interior Cabinet Secretary in just a way to continue to see how best they can contain the spread of this disease. We also have some of the numbers just well written in detail again in this same paper. In terms of where we stand as an African continent, this is in regards to the number of confirmed cases as well as the globe. In Africa, we are at 25,777 with about 6,814 recovered and 1,202 deaths. Across the globe is about 2.5 million confirmed cases, recovered about 704,647, 179,009 death cases across the globe. Again, just the map of East Africa showing the number of cases in East Africa specifically, as well as the number of recovered cases and the number of death cases, also showing the countries in Africa that have been greatly affected by this disease in terms of confirmed cases, as well as the countries that have been least affected by this disease. And clearly Egypt still seems to be topping the list, just like it was yesterday. As of today, standing at over 3,000 again, just like how it was yesterday. But again, interestingly, in as much as, yes, Egypt is recording high cases, it is not recording high number of death cases compared to Algeria, which currently is the country in East Africa, or better still in Africa, that is recording high number of death cases. But these figures have again well been written in detail, just to see the number of countries across the globe as well as Africa that are being really affected by this disease so far. Now, still coming back to matters to do with COVID, and this is what the CS also mentioned yesterday during his daily brief. You can run, but not hide. State tells quarantine escapees. Remember the other day we were talking about the at least 50 people who had escaped mandatory quarantine at KMTC, and now the government has ordered people who escaped from quarantine to return to the isolation centers before they are arrested. The Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe yesterday said that Mandera was the first report cases of individuals who had escaped from quarantine, even before the recent one, which we are all aware of, which is the one at KMTC. And so this came even as the government directed that Mandera be added to the list of counties under cessation, and of course we have seen that. But let me just run you through what the CS mentioned yesterday. So this is what he said, and I quote, "So those people should surrender themselves back to the quarantine facilities, failure to which they could even be mopped out and taken back. So they should not expose themselves to such possibilities." So ideally just telling those that escaped to return back to this mandatory quarantine.
All right, and let's head over to other dailies. This morning I am also having a copy of the Daily Nation and the Standard. Moving on to the Daily Nation, on the front page, we have an issue that concerns all Kenyans. On the front page, the splash there is more cash in your pocket this month. And this is in regards to what happened in Parliament yesterday. More good news for you, for all Kenyans outside there. The cost of bread, milk, medical and agricultural pest control products to remain the same after members of Parliament yesterday rejected National Treasury proposals that would have introduced tax on the items, arguing that doing so would hurt ordinary Kenyans. The coronavirus gives pay slips a rare boost. People earning different salaries will be given different relief. Remember, the maximum pay-as-you-earn percentage applicable is 25%. This is a drop from 30%, where we have those earning below 24,000 getting their salaries intact. The president announced the measures to cushion Kenyans. Different salaries being given different percentages in terms of the relief. More cash in your pocket this month. Tax relief measures by President Uhuru Kenyatta to reflect in earnings. To open the page and get to read more about this story on more cash in your pocket this month, opening up the page on the Daily Nation so that we can be able to get to find out more about this on this story. We have on page 4 of the Daily Nation, if I'll just get to that page, all right. We have your net salary will rise this month as Uhuru's tax measures take force. The new tax relief will benefit low and high earners the most, saying the Federal of Kenya employers. Now, apart from pay as you earn, which was reduced from 30 to 25%, employees will also enjoy a 70% increase in personal tax relief. There is a table there of how your pay will change. Those who earn a salary of 10,000, the taxable salary, the new pay is 0, up to those who earn 20,000 shillings. But from 25,000, it is 100. You will take home 24,900. That is, if at all you earn 25,000. The new personal relief for those who earn 25,000 will be 2,400. The old payee, remember, was 1,567. The new one is 100. So this gives to show how Kenyans will be getting a relief in terms of their salaries. Taxable salary coming up to all the way from 10,000 people earning up to 3 million, with their old relief given there, savings given there, the new personal relief given there, and the take-home also highlighted on the story. Now, on the other page, workers win big with less tax, cheaper food. In regards to the same, in terms of how this coronavirus is affecting the economy, the amendment bill was proposed by the president to cushion Kenyans from effects of the COVID-19. Remember that. Now, MPs reject the proposal to tax basic goods, but approve reduced pay for workers. The cost of bread, milk, medical products, and agricultural pest control products will not increase after Parliament overturned the Treasury proposals that would have seen some prices of basic commodities attract taxes. That is on the tax relief highlighted inside the Daily Nation. Moving on to, in regards to the same story, we have the same story also highlighted in the Standard on how the tax relief is going to affect all Kenyans inside the Standard newspaper. We have Treasury releases 40.3 billion war chest to fight pandemic. That is in the Standard. 33.4 billion is under recurrent expenditure, while 6.9 billion is under development. Vulnerable groups and maize farmers are among the biggest gainers in the supplementary budget tabled in Parliament. So get read more about this story on how the Treasury has released 40.3 billion shillings war chest to fight the pandemic of the COVID-19. Inside both stories in the Standard newspaper and in the Daily Nation.
Now, looking at what exactly could be happening or is happening on the Star, let's have a look at what they put on the first page. There is definitely an illustration on COVID-19, how to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And today they're having a special look at pregnant women who are breastfeeding. I'll read verbatim of what they're saying. They say breastfeeding. If you have COVID-19, wear a face mask and wash your hands before each feeding. I'm sure most women didn't see that one coming, but when you're breastfeeding, wear a face mask. Wash hands before touching any pump or bottle parts. Yeah? Express breast milk to establish and maintain milk supply. Yeah? Express milk. Yeah, expressing milk is a thing like to help prevent COVID-19. So express milk to establish and maintain milk supply. But looking over at what is happening on the title of the page, Governor Sonko, I don't know what I signed with Uhuru. Yeah? So county chief threatens to end City Hall deal with State House. Yeah? The county chief threatens to end City Hall deal with State House. Now let's have a look at what exactly they're saying on page 4. I'll spread it out. I hope you guys can get to see it. It says, Please forgive me. I will never repeat that mistake again. In fact, I'm starting the process of terminating the deed of transfer, just like any other ordinary contract. I will now personally go to court to have it terminated. So that is what Governor Sonko is saying in a nutshell. Yes, on the page there is this picture about a week ago, never give up. You should have a look at what exactly they're saying about it, right?
And moving on to the front page of the Standard newspaper now, I touch on the Daily Nation front page now. Heading over to the Standard, we have Sonko on war path after Ruto meeting. Interesting story there. The splash is on Sonko on war path after Ruto meeting. Fallout, Deputy President hosts embattled Nairobi governor moments before Sonko publicly dismisses the takeover of key functions by national government in a deal that was brokered by the president last month. We have images of the governor, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, and the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto. The quote from the Nairobi governor, Mike Sonko, there written, and I quote, "The president has good intentions, but some of his officers have hijacked the process to embarrass and frustrate me with impunity. I will not resign. In fact, this is the time to terminate the transfer of functions deed." Sonko on war path after Ruto meeting. To get to open this page, the Standard newspaper, and get to read more about this story on the governor and the deputy president inside the Standard newspaper, we have a highlight there. No turning back, Sonko says after Ruto meeting. It's a push and pull where we have embattled but bold county chief comes out fighting and blames his woes on office of the president mandarins. Karen takes home in the wake of Nairobi governor's decision to reclaim transferred county functions. Karen talks come in the wake of Nairobi governor's decision to reclaim transferred county function. And we have pictured in an image of Governor Mike Sonko passes through the sanitizing spray booth he launched at the Kencom bus stage in Nairobi on April the 19th. And we have on the takeover, remember, the governor has complained about being frustrated by some officials in the presidency. Getting to read more about this story down there. He has complained about some officials in the presidency he claimed who were out to make him look bad. But this story on the governor is also in the Daily Nation on how the governor is going to, or how he has already acted upon everything that is taking place within the Nairobi County. And on the Daily Nation, we have the same story on Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who claims that there are intentions to make him look bad. In the Daily Nation, on the same story, Sonko now threatens to pull out of city functions transfer deal. Sonko now threatens to pull out of city functions transfer deal. He cites frustrations in implementation of the accord by senior State House officials. The Nairobi governor has threatened to withdraw from the transfer of functions deal with the national government, citing frustrations in its implementation. And there is a quote by the governor saying, "I am starting the process of terminating the deed of transfer of functions. I will personally go to court and have it terminated." That is the story in the Daily Nation and in the Standard. The question is, will he terminate this? Well, make sure that you give us your thoughts in regards to the governor's move. Will the deed of transfer be terminated or not? Your thoughts on that. Back to the Standard newspaper on matters education, matters to do with education. We have it's back to school for KCPE and KCSE exams. The president announces candidates will be recalled to class to prepare for national tests, but teachers want directive extended to Form 3 students and Standard 7 pupils. It's back to school for KCPE and KCSE exams. What will happen next? Let me get to open the Standard newspaper to read more about this story inside the Standard in regards to matters to do with education on what will happen next for our candidates who are sitting both KCSE and KCPE examination. Uhuru rules out suspension of national exams. It's not clear if partial opening of schools is an option that is still not yet clear. But CS Magoa is weighing various options for the education sector under prevailing crisis. There is a crisis plan, and it's not clear whether partial opening of schools for candidates is among the options the ministry is considering, with second term opening date set for May. But the heads of school want Form 3 and 4 allowed back to school under restricted protocol, same with Class 7 and Class 8 pupils. The proposals has serious challenges that need proper planning between Ministry of Education and Teachers Service Commission. And there is a concern over the candidate safety and also social distancing. Uhuru rules out suspension of national exams.
Wow. On the Star, we'll now start with having a look at what is happening with Governor Mike Sonko. More on his story, the Star survey. Today, do you still trust Governor Mike Sonko? That's the question for you from the Star today. Do you still trust Governor Mike Sonko? Yesterday's question, should Jubilee wrangles be postponed until COVID-19 crisis ends? 63% say yes. 37 are saying, 37 are saying no, but 63 are saying yes. Tomorrow we'll be having a look at what the Star is saying about Governor Mike Sonko. But on education matters, they've also been highlighted on the Star. Uhuru hints at partial reopening of schools, dismisses speculation that KCPE, KCC exams could not be cancelled. Yeah, he dismisses speculation that KCPE and KCSE could be cancelled. Okay? So, still on matters education, tutors' dilemma, teach online or quit. Yeah, Professor Nemo says people will realize they have to adapt or be surplus to requirements. That is tutors going online, teaching or quitting. Ram?
All right, and that is in regards to what's happening in the education sector. The question is, are our children learning from home? Do you think they're learning? Wanasoma kweli? And remember, we have sobriety that should be seen in our respective homes. Sobering reality in homes as teachers and parents are also grappling with imparting knowledge remotely. But now moving on to the Standard newspaper, we have a story on the police, the Kenya police, and on how they are handling the Kenyans or the Kenyan citizens. Police now biggest threat to public in fight against the virus. Police now biggest threat to public in fight against virus. Passengers pay bribes to travel to the coast abroad, trucks transporting food. Now, from beating up old men and women to breaking into homes and soliciting bribes, the officers are making testing positive for virus a crime. That is the debate there. Is testing positive for the virus a crime? Well, police now biggest threat to public in fight against a virus. Get read more about that story. And now, I would like to take you to this Daily Nation. In regards to the quarantine centers, there is a very interesting take on the Daily Nation in regards to the quarantine centers, the isolation centers. Do you think that it is expensive? Do you think that it is cheap? Do you think that it is possible or it is affordable? Well, the Daily Nation has a story in regards to this on the expenses of, or how expensive this can be, especially for for Kenyans out there. Inside the Daily Nation, on that story, hospital draining millions from Kenyans in COVID war. Hospitals draining millions from Kenyans in COVID war. Patients pay a fortune whether they test negative or positive. Well, that's a turn of events where public facilities charge fraction of cost at private ones. Now, you may wonder, how much is it per hour? Well, get this. It is 47,000 shillings. That's right, 47,000 Kenyan shillings. That is what a patient pays for accommodation at a private hospital in just 24 hours. Hospital draining millions from Kenyans in COVID war. Doreen.
Right, so we continue with the People's Daily, and lawmakers reject Treasury move to impose VAT on essential goods, where the Parliament last evening rejected move by the National Treasury to impose value-added tax on essential items, protesting that doing so this time will be burdening the already overtaxed Kenyans. So led by the Majority Leader Aden Duale, who's also pictured in the paper, the MP said that introducing VAT to basic commodities will take away the gains made in the reduced VAT rates from 16 to 14%. Remember that this was proposed that the VAT to be reduced from 16 to 14%, and so taxing again essential commodities will be just overburdening the already overburdened Wanjiko. So again, that story has been well written in detail in the same paper. Moving on, this is in regards to exams, which was also mentioned in the Daily Nation as well as the Standard, and this is for both KCP and KCSE students. Also, this is an issue that the President touched on yesterday, and it just says that the exams will go on as scheduled, Uhuru assures. And so the President yesterday allayed fears about postponement of this year's national exams, which comprise of the KCP and the KCSE. He said they will be administered as scheduled, meaning that there will be no postponement of these exams. But even at that, the assurance, yes, it is a big relief for learners and parents who had expressed concerns the exams could be delayed due to closure of schools to tame the spread of this pandemic. But parents and learners continue to just ask the questions on the preparation of the candidates, given the fact that schools have been closed. So exactly what is the preparation of these candidates, especially in regards to the completion of the syllabus? And of course, this is an issue that we just continue to see how it will unravel, even as time. We continue to see how that issue will unravel, even as the President promised that exams will continue just as scheduled. Still sticking on matters to do with education, the ministry now unveils 16 billion Kenyan shilling budget plan to avert COVID-19 effects on education sector. I mean, just the way other sectors have been affected by the spread of this disease, education is also one of those sectors. And so the Education Ministry has drawn a 16 billion shilling emergency response budget to avert the effects of disruption of the school calendar occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. The kitty is now expected to be funded through support from local education partners, Global Partnership for Education, the government, and other interested parties. So this is just what the Ministry of Education is trying to do to see how best students can be protected even as this disease continues to spread here in the country as well as the entire globe. And now the Kenya Pipeline Company, KPC, has dispatched 20,000 liters of sanitizers to northern Kenya. So these are the free hand sanitizers that KPC, which is the Kenya Pipeline Company, is dispatching. This is just to help protect the number of persons that cannot afford the hand sanitizers. Remember that we have been urged to continue exercising social distancing, washing our hands, using face masks, using hand sanitizers. But even at that, there are some who cannot afford this hand sanitizer. So this is just some of what companies are trying to do to help protect such persons. So even as the national government is trying to do its best, there are also companies that are coming to see how best they can also help the national government in continuing to assist Kenyans that cannot afford some of these commodities. Now, this is in regards to the curfew, this is the dusk to dawn curfew that had also been announced. Again, this is just in ways to see how best this virus can be contained. And now, so 6 reports shows that 6 have died in police hands. This is again that period since when the dusk to dawn curfew began, and now at least 6 people died from police brutality during the first 10 days of Kenya's dusk to dawn curfew to contain the spread of COVID-19. This is a report by the Human Rights Watchdog. In this report, the Human Rights Watch has accused the officers of using excessive force and brutalizing Kenyans for failure to observe this curfew. So this just shows that 6 Kenyans have died so far since when the dusk to dawn curfew began. And remember, like I mentioned, this dusk to dawn curfew was just one of the measures that was put in place to help contain the spread of the coronavirus. To another story now, and mass testing key in war on corona, says health experts. And now, as the country enters the most crucial stage in the fight against coronavirus, the government has sounded the alarm that the number of infections could rise exponentially in the coming days. And of course, we have witnessed this with how these numbers have been rising, at least since this week began. As of now, we stand at 303 confirmed cases in the country. And one of the biggest challenges in the fight against this COVID-19 has been the country's limiting testing capacity because of shortage of this testing equipment. So the testing capacity has been one of the major challenges. But in addition, while addressing the media yesterday, the President Uhuru Kenyatta said testing kits were a challenge, yes, but expressed optimism that the country will scale up testing in target areas. Of course, these are the areas that are recording high number of cases day in, day out. Then also there's a bite here that says that yes, we are expanding our testing capacity. We started testing 10, 20 people. Now we have gone to as many as 1,000 people in 24 hours. This just shows you what the state is trying to do to ensure that people can get tested, so that at least for those that are confirmed with this infection, measures can be taken on them. So we do this every other day, again, just to sample out for you the stories that have been highlighted in our newspaper review. We do the Daily Nation, the Standard, the Star, as well as the People's Daily, and this is where we come to a close in our In the Headlines segment.
All right, Entertainment Thursday continues. Remember, we are live on Facebook, on www.kbc.co.ke, on YouTube. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Keep texting and keep commenting at Ramaguko, at Doreen Narange, at Jane Wambui, and at KBC Television. Now, you're just now for the next interview of the day. Joining me live is Dr. Ezekiel Mutua. He is the CEO of the Kenya Film Classification Board. Daktari, a very good morning to you. Naona umevaa kofia. You are in quarantine. You're working from home.
I'm working from home.
Yes. Thank you very much for finding time to join us this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's good to be with you today.
And when we talk about clean content, what do we mean?
It's essentially content that is palatable, that is appropriate, that is in our situation suitable for family viewing, that has an identifying message, that is sensible. Mm-hmm. Ideally, we expect musicians and artists to create content that has a message for society. Mm-hmm. Because art is a mirror of society. Art is a vehicle for promoting cultural values, morality, and aspirations, giving hope to society, addressing societal issues, and ensuring that through art, music, stage plays, drama, we can create conversations around issues that affect society. And so art is supposed to serve society. Mm-hmm. And to serve society, therefore, the message is supposed to be clean, is supposed to be appropriate.
And in regards to the message being clean and appropriate, as a KFCB, you normally do a lot of things, including content regulation. The president had directed the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Heritage to set aside 100 million Kenyan shillings for local artists during the COVID-19 pandemic. But you said this, and I quote, they should not benefit from any government funds. That in regards to to those who you found to go against the content regulation strategies that you had put in place. You say that you believe artists should benefit, that you believe artists should benefit or get paid or receive any funds if classified to have an acceptable content. How is that so? How should we be handling all this, especially when it comes to them receiving these funds? They should be denied these funds?
The president's message was supposed to encourage artists during this COVID-19 situation to be able to continue to create good content, to be able to survive because everybody is affected. But the government cannot reward criminals. There's a procedure for creating content. It's governed by the Films and Stage Plays Act, Cap 222 of the laws of Kenya. And it says that any content that is created must be created in line with that law. Meaning that if you want to create content, you've got to apply for a filming license. If it is an audiovisual, you've got to bring it for examination and classification. That content, as I said at the beginning, must be suitable for family viewing, must be good for society. And so the government is not in the business of rewarding criminals. People are breaking the law. If people do not submit the content for classification, if people do not comply with the Films and Stage Plays Act, Cap 222, they cannot benefit from the funds from the government because creativity is not just in music and in film. The guys who are doing artisan work, who are doing carpentry, the guys who are doing mechanic, they're also creative, and they also deserve to be supported. And so the government cannot be rewarding a section of society that is not serving any good for society.
What about those people
who are the government can only reward? Yeah, so what I was saying is, we are going to submit that a list of the people who are not compliant and who have been blacklisted. People are creating content who are giving us a hard time having to follow them, to fight them, to sue them, to take them to the DCI, to ask Google to pull their music down. Those ones will not be rewarded and cannot be supported. We'll share this list with the MCSK, we'll share it with Kekobo, we'll share it with the ministry and other government agencies to ensure that those that we blacklist do not just benefit from, not only fail to benefit from government funds, but cannot be engaged in government activities. They cannot be engaged to MC a government function or to perform in a government function. We must have rules and we must have decency in society.
Dr. Mutua, when you talk about rules and decency, we have had offenders that you have flagged in the past, but here we have a case of repeat offenders. How do you plan to deal with them?
I think for repeat offenders, it is clear in the law. We will follow them in line with the law. The law says if you are found to have violated the Films and Stage Plays Act, Cap 222, you pay a fine of 100,000 shillings or a jail of a 5-year jail term. You serve a 5-year jail term, or both. Where, like in the case of Ethic Entertainment, there is a repeat offense. Obviously, the board will be pushing that they serve both. They pay 100,000 shillings and they also serve 5-year jail term. But that will be determined by the court if we go to court, or if they agree that we sign out of court and they comply with the law.
You've mentioned Ethic, and I remember you gave comments and you were saying that Google should pull down their content because they have been found to keep on repeating all these things. And you even asked if the producers were having children. But you said this, and I will quote you, you said, "That's not creativity. It's immoral foolishness, and that many innocent kids will do this thinking it's a fashionable and honorable thing." But now, when you have cases of people repeating the same thing, it means that there is a line that is not clear. It is not yet open in terms of the clarity. Where do we draw the line between creativity and what youths would term as immoral foolishness?
Let me tell you, the work of regulating creative work is not not black and white per se. It's not something you can vet in advance, or you can create awareness. You can create. You can sensitize. You can advocate for people to follow the law. But just like the traffic police, there will always be that guy who is veering off the road, who is driving a car that is not supposed to be on the road. Our work is continuous engagement. So we can't, while the law is so clear, we cannot say this is where the line is, because creativity is a relative term. Some
unlimited.
find ethnic music okay. That's why they create, because they have a market. As a regulator, our work is to say is not appropriate. What we advocate for is content that is suitable for family viewing, particularly if it is airing on free-to-air radio and TV, if it's airing on or it's being circulated in platforms that can be accessed by children, and it's between 5 in the morning to 10 in the evening. That's what we call the watershed period. So I think we will continue to engage. Like I've said, it's like the traffic police. You will always have traffic offenders. You'll always have people who, not for lack of knowing the law, not for failure to have regulation, but for reasons known to themselves, they will keep breaking the law. Look at what is happening with the quarantine. People are running out of the quarantine facilities. It's not because they don't know the law. It is because the human nature is that of defiance. And that's why the law presupposes that every human being has a criminal mind. That's why the law starts by saying, thou shalt not. It presumes that everybody has the propensity to break the law. Starts by saying, you shall not do this. And so our work is to ensure that as a regulator, we keep following up, we keep looking for ways to enhance engagement with the stakeholders to create awareness. But look, criminals will always find ways of breaking the law. Regulators will always find time to ensure that when they break the law, they are punished.
You've talked about those who escaped from the quarantine centers. Just as a by the way, what do you think about that? What's your take on it?
It is immoral. It's wrong. You know, if you are taken to a quarantine facility and you think you have been judged wrongly, you can engage a lawyer. There are ways of engaging. You can talk to the media, but you cannot jump over the wall and run away from a quarantine facility. Already your details have been taken. You'll be followed up. And like the president said, they will get back there. They will serve their full term, and the law will follow them wherever they are. It's wrong.
There's someone saying that they were not being tested, and there was complaining that, hey, we did not go there to eat. Quite interesting there, Dr. Mutua.
Well, that's a different story. The fact is, it has been made very clear that if you are caught breaching the curfew orders and you are outside the hours that are prescribed for the curfew, you'd be presumed to have been exposed, and you'd be taken to a quarantine facility. That has been made very clear. And I've listened to some of the reasons they are advancing. Somebody saying that, oh, I was going to buy medicine. You're supposed to stock medicine if you know that someone is likely to fall sick. And if they fall sick, you can call a doctor. Unless you are listed as an essential service provider, do not endanger the lives of others by trying to break the law. Everybody can have an excuse. And if we all create excuses, then there is not going to be order. So I do not support them.
Earlier on, you were giving all this in comparison with the police. You're saying it's like, in traffic police, where you will always find offenders on the road. Which brings me to find out about this. You were trying to raise concern in regards to the matatus and the public service vehicle conducts. So far, what measures do we have in place that are being followed to the letter? I saw you, I don't know if it was I think it was in Mombasa County, where you are on the road, looking at different public service vehicles around 2 months ago. Are they following these measures stipulated?
I believe they are. We engaged the PSV owners. We end up meeting with them in Nairobi and in Mombasa, and we agreed, rather than do the raids on the road, We give them the regulations, and they're going to ensure that their SACCOs follow the regulations. And before the COVID-19, we had almost 100% compliance. I have no reason to doubt what the agreement that we had with them, because the Matatu Owners Association, the Bus Owners Association, and all the SACCOs and the traffic police, everybody is supporting what we are doing, that Matatus are not broadcasters. And the moment they decide to mount screens and play content, that content should be appropriate, because people are getting into those vehicles with their parents, with their children. They are getting there and they want to move from point A to B. They are not getting into those vehicles to be harassed or to watch pornography or to watch bad content. And so it is immoral and it's wrong. And when we spoke to these guys, they understood, and they said sometimes they are not even aware that their conductors are doing this kind of thing. And so we decided to sensitize the conductors and the drivers. They are supporting us. We have a WhatsApp group where we share this information. When a matatu is reported by a passenger to be violating this, we have a hotline number that we have publicized, and when we share with these people, action is taken. Because of COVID-19, of course, we have slowed down. We are not able to do the random checks that we were doing, but so far, we do not have any cases of people who are not complying.
And you talk about conductors even being the ones who play or air this content in the public service vehicles. But
yes, conductors and drivers, particularly drivers, they are like the DJs when it comes to the content that is played in the matatus or in the PSVs. And so they are the most important people to sensitize, for them to understand the kind of content that should be played. And we said content played in PSVs must be suitable for family. It is therefore rated GE.
But it means that
when you get into that matatu and you find pornographic content or people gyrating or naked people or music that is not that is not palatable, then you can call the hotline number that we have publicized, and you can also talk to the drivers. You can call our numbers in the office, and we are going to assist you.
But if that's the case, it means we do not yet have that level of awareness. We have not yet reached that level where everyone, including our conductors, drivers, the public, the level of awareness is not yet to the required standard in a way that we will not be seeing these things being aired in these public matatus.
I agree with you. There's need to do more. Obviously, like I've said, the work of regulation is constant engagement, is creating awareness, identifying the stakeholders and working with them. And that's what we are doing. That's why we have gone out and engaged with them to ensure that they understand the law and they're able to enforce the law themselves. The best form of regulation is self-regulation. And so what we are advocating for is a situation where the PSV stakeholders themselves can apply our regulations and ensure that they don't have to dismantle the screens. They play the right content. And we said any content played in a PSV must be content that is suitable for family. So the first thing that they do, but if by choice they have decided to mount a screen in their vehicles, then it means they have turned themselves into content exhibitors. So we demand that they therefore obtain an exhibition license, which is 2,000 shillings per year. Then once they have that exhibition license, they ensure that they also play content that is rated general exhibition, meaning it is suitable for listeners or viewers of all ages, that when parents get into those vehicles with their children, they are not embarrassed, they don't have to endure the agony of watching pornographic content. It is suitable for the family. So the engagement is very straightforward. I agree with you, we need to do more in terms of awareness. And yes, this is what we are doing. And we are hoping that if it were not for COVID-19, the measures that we put in place to engage with the conductors, with the drivers, with the PSV owners and the SACCOs was going to bear fruit. We had already licensed very many, almost 400,000, 400 vehicles. Our target was actually to reach 400 to 500,000 vehicles.
Did you reach that target?
Because there are very many. Sorry?
Did you manage to reach that target, 400, 500 vehicles?
So we have just started. We started this in January. So basically, we had done just about 2 months.
Okay.
Actually, we did 1 month. We started end of February. So we did February, and most of it was about creating awareness, engaging with them. And we managed to license about 400 vehicles. If it was not for COVID-19, the response was increasing as we go on. We are hoping that even though we are not doing the raids, they are complying. And those who are not complying, if they are found, they will pay a very heavy fine. Like I said, it is 100,000 shillings or 5-year jail term. And I'm sure you can't compare 2,000 shillings per year to 100,000 every time you are caught having not complied with the law. So the fines are too hefty for anybody to want to engage with us. We are only saying get a license of 2,000 shillings per year, play the right content, and we are guiding you. We are creating sensitization for free. We are giving you the guidelines for free. We were even making stickers that are going to be able to attach or to stick to those vehicles to show that this vehicle has complied with the law. And it's only 2,000 per year. I don't think it's a big deal, really.
All right.
And a lot of these people, the PSV owners, are very supportive of what we are doing.
And as you talk about people being supportive of what you are doing, it brings me to the society now. Is this a reflection of the society? Because I remember you said this when it comes to these artists who are going against these regulations. You said this, and I quote, "Such people should not be considered as artists, but enemies of society and a threat to the well-being of our children." Aren't we as a society the ones who are cushioning, and accepting all this in the beginning, and then we are the same people who are, rejecting, looking at what is happening on Twitter, YouTube, where we have even most people trying to do different things, all in view or targeting to get viewers or followers?
Society is all of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Society is not just the religious people. It's not just the upright people. It's even the criminals. It's everybody. And that's why we must all agree that what brings us together is the rule of law. That for us to survive as members of this society, we must have rules of engagement. It cannot be anything, the catch of anything goes.
All right.
So that's why we are saying when it comes to content, art cannot be art for art's sake. It has to be art that has meaning to society, that is building society, that is promoting morality and culture, and that is promoting good values, positive social values. So it cannot be art for art's sake, that somebody can promote deviance and inimical behavior. You cannot have artists who promote, for example, illicit drugs or terrorism or breaking the law or defying the government. I think when we agree that we are a society called Kenya, Kenya is not just a geographical country. It's not just a geographical territory. It is people living together with set or shared beliefs and values and cultures. That's what forms a society or a country.
Now,
people living in a certain geographical area with shared values, cultures, and beliefs. And this is why the rule of law becomes very important. So we cannot have people who are doing dirty content, who are destroying our children, who are going against our moral values, and then we encourage them or allow them to continue doing that. They will face the law. That's why in every society, there are laws to govern how people engage and how people interact.
You've spoken about laws in every society, and I would like us to, as we bring things to a close, because there's still so many questions that I can ask you, Dr. Mutua. But speaking, because of the interest of time, as we bring this discussion to a close, we are in the time where children are at home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'd like you to address this. Cyberbullying. We're talking about media content. How should parents and guardians deal with the effects of media, social media, including social media, the effects of content with their children, especially at this time where we have COVID-19? Briefly, within a minute.
I think it's about all of us being responsible, both content creators and as well as parents. I think parents need to monitor what their children are watching, because as a matter of necessity, they have now access to gadgets because of their studies. They're doing their studies online, they're doing their exams online. And what we advocate is let parents monitor what their children are watching. Let them support us. And we are engaging with various stakeholders to create awareness and to ensure that we also target parents and children to understand that there are dangers that come with technology. It's a double-edged sword. While it's so good to facilitate access to education at a time like this, but it's also a double-edged sword. It can also bring other content that is not good for them. And so parents must be very keen to ensure that they monitor what their kids are watching.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mutua, for joining me this morning and for giving us your take in regards to this.
You're most welcome.
All right, that is Dr. Ezekiel Mutua when it comes to the Kenya Film Classification Board, giving us his take when it comes to content regulation in the nation or in Kenya, in the country. Do you think our content creators are going well in line with the regulatory stipulations? Well, give us your take. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. Tag me at Ramaguko, at Jane Wambui, and at Doreen Arange. We are live on Facebook. Keep commenting. Keep tweeting. We're taking a short break. We'll be back in a bit. Good Morning Kenya continues.